Hello, everyone, and welcome to Amplified, the podcast where we explore how technology is transforming industries and amplifying human potential. I'm sorry. I'm your host, Ishaant Majumdar, a high school junior passionate about how AI and technology can create a real world impact. Today, I'm excited to welcome Roshan right here, co-founder and CTO of Apten and a Y Combinator backed startup building autonomous AI, SMS, and voice agents for sales and marketing teams. Roshan is a UC Berkeley EECS graduate and a former AWS engineer. Today, he's working at the frontier of applied AI, building systems that operate independently and assist humans, making decisions, testing strategies, and continuously improving how companies engage with customers. In our conversation today, we'll be exploring how AI is reshaping sales and marketing, what truly separates automation from autonomy, and what it takes to build an AI system that businesses can really trust with revenue critical workflows. Roshan, thank you so much for joining me on Amplified.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Ishaant.
Yeah. Before we dive into AI agents and sales technology, I'd love to start with your personal journey. You studied at EECS at Berkeley, worked on everything from hackathon projects to large scale systems at AWS, and then made the leap into building a startup from scratch. What originally drew you toward building real world systems? And was there a specific moment when you realized you wanted to create something beyond, traditional software engineering?
Yeah, I guess as a kid, I always loved building things, from scratch.
Hmm.
I think everybody loves playing with Legos. I was a big
Yeah,
Lego kid.
yeah, me
Uh,
too.
I liked making like Minecraft mods, websites, things like that.
Yeah.
It was super fun for me. So I think I always kind of, once I discovered that stuff, I knew I wanted to be an engineer. Um,
Hmm.
and then around after my freshman year at Berkeley, I had the opportunity to intern at a startup called Influx Data, which was like a Series D startup at the time. And that was my first like real professional experience with building. And I think that's when I really fell in love with kind of like end to end ownership in terms of product features, figuring out what customers and users want,
Yeah.
and iterating towards a solution that serves them well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And can you give us some information specifically, like what you did in your internship, what you worked on, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so Influx Data is a time series database company.
Hmm.
So when I joined, they didn't have like a formal internship program. That was like their first batch of them trying it. And I had a couple of tasks, like small tasks, to take care of when I first joined.
Yeah,
But what happened was as I started like exploring the code base, there were certain things I got interested in, and they kind of let me run with it. Uh,
hmm,
and so I was working on Flux, which is their proprietary like scripting and querying language for their database.
yeah,
So I was building things for their programming language that would let their users, like one of the main projects was multi data source connectors. So in that programming language, being able to natively pull in data from other sources such as AWS or like uh, GCP, Bigtable,
yeah,
SQL tables, things like
yeah.
that.
Okay, okay. And how did that lead to like where you're doing now? I know it's like similar in some aspects, but it definitely feels a little different, with marketing and everything like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say my current job is like directly related to it, but I think that's the first experience where I kind of had a lot of autonomy and agency in what I was building,
Hmm.
and realized that's the great part of working at a startup. Because after that, I
Yeah,
went and I interned and worked at AWS for a bit, and that was a whole separate like amazing learning process. But I think at startups you kind of have um, you have a lot more autonomy in what you want to work on, and so I kind of fell in love with that.
yeah. Okay, okay, yeah. And a lot of like I'm sure you work with a huge team, and a lot of them use terms like AI automation, AI agents, personalization, like almost interchangeably. From your perspective, what truly distinguishes an autonomous agent from traditional sales or marketing automation tools?
Right. So traditional sales and marketing tools have a big trade-off. There's a trade-off between scale and
Yeah.
speed and personalization.
Hmm.
And previously, you can't really have both. You either have scale and speed, which is traditional, like if this, then do this, else do this, like if statements
Yeah.
is how a
Yeah.
lot of like traditional marketing is done, or simple triggers, like maybe they leave an item in their shopping cart or something, and you can send them a follow up email after like 2 days. Maybe they forgot, to check out, but it's very like predefined triggers on what kind of messaging you're sending them.
Yeah.
And the other side of that spectrum is you have very personalized sales and marketing efforts. Typically, a company that uh, does this, they'll have like a human team
Mhm.
that kind of looks at your behavior. They're always there to respond to your questions, give suggestions, recommendations, things like that. And traditionally, I think that kind of sales and marketing has been reserved for very high ticket sales, so like B2B sales.
Mhm.
And I think with the new advances in AI and LLMs is that we're kind of seeing you can get the most of both worlds here.
Yeah.
Um, AI agents can not only navigate like predefined conditions, but they can kind of react dynamically. And instead of just executing steps, they make decisions. Instead of having templates that they want to set out, they have like a preset goal that they're working towards dynamically.
Mhm.
Um, and they can ingest a lot more information, especially unstructured information, and use that to sort of optimize their own conversations with customers for an overall much better experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, what's an example, if possible, you could give of like maybe like real world scenario where this kind of thing happens, where AI is used for like personalization instead of just preset, triggers, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So a big thing for us, a big part of like Apten's selling point is that
Mhm.
it's a truly multi-channel AI agent. What this
Mhm.
means is that it can talk to you over text, over calls, emails, web chat, uh, and it's actually using a single shared memory of your profile.
Okay.
So normally, traditionally, like a B2C company will have different tools. They'll have a dialer, which their human reps use to automatically dial uh, their customers and get them on
Yeah.
calls. They'll have a email software like Klaviyo, for example, which is kind of like they're sending out templated emails based on predefined triggers uh, and conditions, like I talked about
Mhm.
before. They might have a SMS marketing platform, which occasionally it can be like humans sitting behind a computer typing back and forth to whoever comes inbound, or just again predefined messages. Um, Whereas, what we're helping companies do now is they can kind of consolidate all these different tools into a single shared experience for the user. So,
Mhm.
for example, let's say I'm a student and I want to enroll in an online university. I
Yeah.
go to the online university's page. I fill out a application form, like a very basic information application form. Put down my contact details.
Mhm.
Um, Immediately within the first like 30 seconds, I'm going to have an AI text me. It's going to start the conversation with me, gather my preferences.
Mhm.
Let's say for whatever I get busy,
Yeah.
I'm out driving and I can't continue the conversation anymore. I'm like, hey, I can't text right now. Maybe you can give me a call. This is something possible with a human that previously wasn't possible with traditional like marketing software. So the AI is going to now call me and it's going to remember everything I said before and continue the conversation. And this is like a
Mhm.
truly personalized experience where it knows everything that I've told it before. I'm not going to have to like repeat anything. It's going to pick up the same conversation and keep going down, working towards getting me an enrollment.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. And this, like, you're saying it goes on for between email, between web message, web chat, between text message. It's all like it's the same context. It's all the same everything like that. That's interesting. And you're having this for each user, right? Every single user has their own sort of like memory, I guess, or one
Exactly.
thing. Yeah, yeah. That's
And the great
interesting.
thing is that If a company from previous interactions has this like, if they're not already using a product like ours and they have all this
Hmm.
information on the user, they can bring it to our product, and our AI will have that before the conversation even starts to be able to personalize its interactions.
Okay, okay. That makes sense. And like, how does the context affect how they make better decisions rather than like the static systems, like you said earlier? You know?
Yeah, I think like traditional marketing messaging can be really easy to ignore if it's not something relevant to you. And a lot of
Yeah.
the hard part about marketing is like, how do you really find the pain point of the user, like this one specific user, and kind of
Hmm.
use that to give them a better experience.
Okay.
And that previously, like, it's really hard to do at scale. But
Yeah.
this is something that AI is like honestly just great at. The more context it has on you, the better it's going to do at personalizing its messaging. The better you're going to feel as a potential customer that there's somebody there like taking care of you, um,
Hmm.
and really looking out for your best interests.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, that's while that's like very cool and all, a lot of people are worried about, kind of privacy concerns, right? Like, how much does this chatbot know about me that it's able to give me such hyper specific recommendations and that kind of thing? How do you kind of maneuver between that and, make sure you're not being, you know, s- staying within privacy limits and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think any like software product that's going to be taking in user data has to be built with security like first and foremost in mind.
Yeah.
So a lot of it comes down to just really rigorous assessment of your vendors, of the technology, making sure there's no like unauthorized disclosure of information. Um, yeah,
Yeah. That's kind of funny because, like, I know there've been some companies, while they may not say explicitly, we're using your data like this. If you like watch a show on Netflix or something, and then on your phone pops up an ad for, I don't know, merch for that show, and
yeah,
it's kind of funny, the like
it's uncanny.
communication. Yeah, and you're wondering, oh, is this like, is it the is it just like biased of like me seeing it, or is it, really, is it talking to each other?
Mhm.
But this has probably affected like actual sales reps and marketing. How do you see the roles of sales reps and marketers evolve as these, AI agents become more capable and more autonomous?
Yeah, so we're seeing like sales reps, their work is going to change from kind of high volume, low conversion to
Hmm.
low volume, high conversion work. So they're going to
Hmm.
be, AI is going to filter out the top 10% of interested leads and have the humans work on actually closing them. Whereas before, they were spending time texting unresponsive users, dialing users, trying to get a hold of someone. A lot of that busy work is going to be automated by AI, and it's already being automated. And what
Yeah,
we've seen among our customers is that you actually have reps spending time on more valuable interactions because the AI is kind of there filtering through the vast majority of your leads already and picking out the ones that are actually worth really spending time on.
can you explain what you said, like sorting through the leads and then picking the ones that are
Yeah.
worth spending time on?
Um, yeah. So let's say like in a given day, you have a couple of thousand like leads that come in through your interest form online.
Hmm.
You need a human team that immediately reaches out to them. Uh, if they respond, have a conversation, figure
Yeah.
out how interested they are, what they're looking for, how ready they are to buy right now, or whether it's kind of a longer term decision and they're just shopping around. For leads that don't even respond, you need to be really on top of your game and check in with them. Maybe check in with them in a day, and then in a week, and then in a month, and day by day, like this work really stacks up, and that kind of follow up is hard to either you're a human and it's a lot of work for you to keep up with, or you kind of
Mhm.
have to drop them into an automated drip system, which
Yeah.
is again just like templated automated text. It's not true personalization in any way. um, and the AI nowadays is taking on a lot of that busy work. It's going to follow up with leads who have not responded or have maybe dropped off mid funnel. It's going to gather their preferences, find out what they're looking for. It's going to figure
Mm.
out, are you actually like ready to buy now, or are you shopping around? If you're like, let's say you're like, hey, I'm not ready to make a decision. Give me a couple weeks. Like Apten right now will actually schedule its own follow up for like 2 weeks later, and it'll remember
Oh,
to come check in with you.
okay.
And of course, it'll remember all the conversations you had before.
Mhm.
So it's really getting rid of a lot of the busy work, and the humans are just going to have much higher quality conversations with leads, and it yeah, much better experience.
So it takes into account like time and that kind of thing. It's able to keep track of like,
Yeah,
weeks and months. I don't, I mean, I've heard of it, but I didn't think it was like to this level of accuracy it was going to be able to do that.
yeah, we were actually like kind of surprised when we first added it because I don't know. In my mind, I thought it's an edge case. Like somebody
Yeah.
fills out a form, they're going to be ready to buy. But in practice, people are like they're shopping around, they're on vacation, they don't want to take a call now. Something comes up and they have to like drop off. But a lot of times they're like, hey, like check in with me in like the beginning of February, and the AI will actually follow through on that.
Wow. Okay. And do you take into account, things like, because I know some fashion companies do this, like clothing companies do this, or airplane ticket companies do this, where they'll mark up the prices or they'll advertise these tickets more at a certain time when when they know that you're gonna buy it more,
Mhm.
more likely. Sorry. So, like for example, if they always know, okay, this person checks tickets at 5 p.m., we're gonna try to advertise it more at 5 p.m. Have you heard anything like that in your industry?
Not in the industries that we work with. Yeah, I've heard it's common with like airlines. I
Mm.
haven't seen any. We typically work with like B2C service companies, so companies where
Okay.
there's already a lot of back and forth between humans
Okay.
um, and leads. So that's things like insurance, education companies, real estate companies, things like that.
Okay. Okay. That makes more sense. So, maybe what are some misconceptions about AI in sales or marketing that you wish more founders and operators and just general people understood?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I think right now there can be a lot of a gap between what people using AI expect it to do and what it actually does. There's
Hmm.
some things that you think AI would be really good at that it's actually not great at. There's some things
Yeah.
that AI is great at that you wouldn't really expect it to be good at. And I think sales kind of is right on that line where it's like somewhere in between. Uh, like right now, I think AI, especially over voice, doesn't have the perfect like emotional capabilities that a human sales rep would have. And I mean, honestly, I think we'll get there within a couple of years
Yeah,
where it can
definitely.
probably handle a full end to end like sales conversation. Um, but at the moment, it's really good at like a lot of this busy work, like lead qualification, lead nurturing, and you still need humans at the end to like close the deal. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
The what? Sorry, were you saying something?
no, go ahead.
No. I think we're already at a point where uh, it can have a sort of conversation, pretty in-depth conversation in sales, and like on calls, especially. Maybe not, some like Gen Z, but I know maybe the older generation. A lot of the voices are becoming, um, a decent amount realistic to the point
Mhm.
where you kind of have to second guess yourself. Is this a real person?
Yeah,
Which could also be
yeah,
used for malicious intent too. That
that is true.
yeah,
Yes. Um, yeah, I think. I mean, yeah, phone calls is like a huge can of worms to open. There's a lot of like TCPA compliance is really important for us. Like the telephone, was the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, something like that.
yeah.
In
What
which
do they specifically guard against? What are they kind of restrictions there?
Yeah, a lot of it is kind of like fraud. Like there's certain categories that you're not supposed to text about. Um, a lot of it is about kind of just protecting uh, consumer like peace, I guess, just peace and living. Like
Mhm.
don't call them in the middle of the night. Don't text them
Yeah,
like 20 times in a single day if they're not responding. If they ask you not to like contact them anymore, like don't contact them.
yeah,
Yeah, so there's a lot of like guardrails we have in place to handle things like that and to make sure we're not in violation or we're giving consumers like a bad experience. Um, yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And with the advent of AI becoming more common, there's definitely going to be more restrictions on AI specifically, in
Yep.
AI interactions, that kind of thing. Is that going to limit your work in the future, you think? If
Um, I don't think so. Like I think sales is not going anywhere, and if there are developments that we need to adapt to, I think AI is like the best positioned to do it.
Mm,
For example, we have like one big problem in the uh, like calling industry right now is iOS 26 has introduced this like call screener, this AI call
mhm,
screener. So if you get a call, it's going to pick up the call for you, kind of ask what the call's about. It'll send you like a preview, and then you can decide whether or not you want to take the call.
yeah,
So a
that's
lot of
interesting.
companies have seen their like call connect rates plummet, or
Mm,
yeah, they're like dropping as people adopt this. And the way we get around that we've seen helps a lot is we're like truly multi-channel. So the best way to get them on a call is actually to send them a text because
mm,
you'll like read your text. Like it's something like 98 or 99% of texts are opened and read. And if you're giving something truly relevant to the end customer,
mm.
then you won't have any issues the next time you call it.
Okay, okay. And as is the texting channel, I would assume it's where these LLMs kind of do the best at compared to calls and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, over text it can be hard to tell you're talking to an LLM. Like they do a really good job of responding to any concerns you have, of answering questions, even just like being proactive and like
Mm,
recommending you things that it suspects you might want to know about. It does really good.
mm,
And honestly, like voice does pretty well, is pretty good as well. It's obvious like it's getting to the point where it's almost indistinguishable from a human agent.
yeah.
It's not like quite there yet, but it still works. Um, uh, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, but I see where what you're saying. But do you preface like the conversation saying like, "Oh, this is a AI agent," right? Or
We frequently do, especially for like phone calls, because I mean, there's no getting around like the fact that people are going to recognize it's an AI. Yeah, but I
yeah,
will say that the channel I don't remember where I was going now. The channel that you use really depends on kind of like your demographic. Like older people much prefer to call than they do to text. And kind of the beauty
mhm,
of being an omni-channel experience with a single
yeah,
unified memory is that you can meet leads or like uh, people on the channel that they prefer. It's like
mhm.
least friction. It's like the least friction possible.
Yeah, the most
I,
personalized kind of.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But one thing I'm thinking about now is you're talking about generations. Each generation kind of has their own way of talking, and I know human sales reps, sometimes unconsciously adapt to this, right? That kind of code switching. Doesn't AI do something similar to that, or is that?
Yeah. So the term for this is mirroring, and
Mhm,
it's actually like a technique that they teach to uh, salespeople specifically, but also like I think in general, if you're mirroring the person you're talking to, you have a better chance of like connecting emotionally,
mhm,
of like having a good conversation. And I think that works pretty well over text right now. If you talk to it a certain way, of course, like a lot of companies put like style and like tone guidelines for the AI to use when it's texting, but at the same time, you can have it adapt to the way that the end user is talking to you. Um,
yeah,
I think Again, with voice, we're not completely there yet. Like, it's not going to copy your intonation. It's not going to copy your the speed at which you're speaking at. But I think we'll get there really soon, and that'll be
Yeah.
amazing to see.
I'm just curious. In over text, Gen Z talks pretty casually. How casual does this like AI agent talk? Is it like like is
It,
it
it, it's really
parody?
customizable.
Okay.
Um, we have some customers that kind of like to make it more like lighthearted and playful.
Hmm.
It depends on the demographic, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And while we're on the topic of Gen Z, how do you think a student should, sort of lead their way into this kind of field? Where should they start?
Yes. I think for like early students, uh, obviously like learning coding, I think is still a must, even with vibe
Yeah.
coding. Uh, there's there's a lot of there's a lot you can learn just by doing things. Um, so pick something you're interested in. Start building a project. It can be honestly anything. You have to get very comfortable with like ambiguity.
Mm,
Ambiguity is where you kind of learn to identify problems, come up with frameworks to fix them, um, iterate on like feedback, understanding like user behavior, things like that.
okay.
So yeah, just pick something, build it. It doesn't have to be big, but you should get comfortable with kind of learning how to solve problems on your own from scratch using resources that are like readily available.
Okay. And what are some mindsets maybe that these students should adapt when kind of coming into this field? I know you spoke about getting used
Yeah.
to ambiguity, but
Well, when you say this field, do you mean like engineering as a whole? Do you mean like AI,
specifically like computer science working with,
computer
AI,
science?
LLM models, general, computational models, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Mindset. Again, it's just like you have to be really comfortable with like ambiguity.
Yeah.
uh, like there exists. You have the state that you're currently in, and you have an end state that you kind of want to get to, and the middle might not be clear,
Hmm.
um, and you might feel a little bit overwhelmed. But honestly, I think like one of my personal like beliefs is that you can kind of learn anything in a couple of weeks. Like if you really set your mind to it.
Yeah.
There's so like
Uh,
especially now there's so many resources out there, and you don't have to solve a problem all at once. You can go step by step, but learning how to really like break down a problem and tackle it one step at a time is very important. Sometimes you'll have to backtrack. Sometimes you'll get stuck and you'll need to take another direction. Sometimes you'll need to reach out to random strangers on the internet for help.
mhm.
But just learning how to navigate the ambiguity is really important.
And as a CTO, you sort of lead a team that um, where you kind of do this process of breaking down the problem and kind of working together. Do you have an example of when you've kind of done that?
Um, I don't necessarily do it on behalf of anybody on my team. I think, especially at a startup, you're hiring people that operate with high agency and high autonomy.
Mhm.
Um, and, startups move really fast and there's a lot of ownership. And so anybody on our team is able to take a problem and kind of approach it from, um, I don't know, their own perspective. But we do a
Mhm.
good job internally of like sharing, like, these are the problems I encountered. This is how I solved it. And then, of course, like we'll go back and we'll review, and maybe there's a different perspective that we want to approach it from.
Okay, okay, and that's interesting. This is really helpful information for especially someone just now entering this field that's with AI and computer science that's grown so rapidly in the past couple of years. It's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much, Roshan, for sharing. Not just what you've been building at Apten, but how you think about autonomy, trust, and of course the real world AI deployment. Before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to share with our listeners, whether it's advice for aspiring founders, engineers, or what they can learn more about Apten?
Yeah, for aspiring engineers, I'd say like the most important thing, just start building something. It's such a great
Yeah,
learning experience, and nowadays it's so easy. Like you can have AI teach you anything. So just
mhm.
really get your hands dirty, dive deep into something, learn its intricacies, and I think like that'll make you into a great engineer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what I did too when like a year ago, I just started building my own kind of things. And I haven't come far, but I've definitely gotten um, deep into the field and that kind of thing.
For
And to
sure.
our audience, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. And stay tuned for more conversations on Amplified, where we explore how AI and technology are reshaping the future. Please email me at Ishaant Majumdar if you have any future ideas for episodes or want to reach out. Thank you so much for listening.